Welcome to this week's State Bar of Georgia Legislative Update. Today is February 17th, 2012. I'm Ken Shigley, President of the State Bar of Georgia. There are a number of things going on in the legislature currently. They're very busy. One thing that will be introduced next week is a major piece of legislation on criminal justice reform. The details will be in the bill that will be dropped in a few days. It will cover a number of topics involving sentencing, probation and parole supervision, accountability courts, traffic offenses, and so forth. We'll be talking about that in a lot more detail next week. One thing that happened in the past few days that is of interest to members of the bar is there was a national class action settlement that was quite monumental, dealing with foreclosure issues arising out of the recent financial crisis. Part of that is that the state of Georgia will receive $104 million that is to be will come through the Attorney General and to be allocated by the legislature. One of the purposes that is to be addressed with that money under the settlement is legal services. The State Bar Executive Committee voted yesterday to endorse and support the efforts of Georgia Legal Services and the Atlanta Legal Aid to get a portion of that to fund legal services for indigent people arising from foreclosure issues and related issues of domestic violence and family stress arising from foreclosures. Tom, you want to talk about some of the nuts and bolts stuff?
Yeah, I'll be happy to. It's the fun time of the legislature is beginning. We're halfway through the session. We have about 10 days until crossover day. Crossover day is the day that House bills must be out of the House in order to be accepted by the Senate, and Senate bills have to be out of the Senate in order to be accepted by the House. So that is day 30. We have 10 days, actually 9 days to do that, so there's a lot of activity and there's going to be a lot going on in the next couple of weeks. Indigent defense, our legislation that we support to mandate indigent defense funding from the fees that are currently being imposed is a constitutional amendment. It's out of committee. It's before House rules. We have to have 120 votes to pass that bill. Or that resolution. It is a constitutional amendment. It is going to be extremely difficult to get 120 votes, but we urge you to email your House member, your senator, and ask them for their support. I would expect that if everything goes well, we'll be on the floor with that in the House next week, probably midweek, Wednesday, Thursday, I would guess at the earliest. Also, the comprehensive rewrite of the Juvenile Code was heard in Senate committee last week, passed out of the Committee on Judiciary in the Senate. It too is in the Senate rules and ready to be placed on the calendar for consideration by the full Senate. The Commercial International Arbitration Bill also is out of committee on Senate rules. I would expect that bill will go Tuesday or Wednesday. I think probably it will go on Tuesday before the full Senate. At least that's the plan right now. Additionally, the partition of heirs property legislation that the bar just endorsed that legislation yesterday by the Executive Committee. That bill passed the House also yesterday, and it is now on its way to the Senate for consideration by the full Senate. We foresee no problems with that legislation. And finally, House budgets for the 2013 fiscal year are moving right along. I expect that the House will adopt a budget late next week or finalize a budget late next week, and I fully expect that the full funding that we expect on indigent defense, legal dollars to assist for legal services for victims of domestic violence, ICJE funding, and funding for the Resource Center, all will be very close to, if not right on target with the expected budgets that we prefer and have recommended as part of the budget and funding process in the General Assembly. So I think the budgeting is going well for 2013. And I think hopefully we'll have some other major news next week on the completion of some legislation in next week's activities. Ken, I think that's all from here.
There are a few other bills that we get a lot of questions about, and I'm going to cover some of the high points there. One is Senate Bill 348 that would change the provisions for service of process on corporations. The bill would take out the current provisions for service upon corporate officers, managers, and so forth, and have service only upon the registered agent, or a substitute service upon the Secretary of State if the registered agent cannot be found and served. There have been questions raised by both the business law section of the bar and by litigators about this bill and some of the problems with it, and the fact that it is not harmonized with the provisions for service of process in the corporate code. The State Bar Executive Committee yesterday voted to oppose that as drafted. There may be room for improvement in the service of process law, but we didn't think this was it. Another bill that is pending is House Bill 665, the Superior Court Clerks Modernization Bill. It is a long, detailed bill. It has a lot of good stuff in it that we probably can support. The Superior Court judges have raised a number of questions on details of the bill, so they're not supporting it at this point without those issues being resolved. And we may also ask that some of the provisions about digitization of records include a requirement that they be compatible with the statewide e-filing system that we're trying to work toward. We will talk about that further in the State Bar Executive Committee in a conference call in the next week or so. If you have comments, please get them to us. Another bill is the Low Profit Limited Liability Companies Bill, HB 594. This is the so-called L3C provision. This is a structure for directing foundation grants to social enterprises of various sorts. We are not taking a position on the bill at this time. However, I was authorized to forward some of the articles and white papers that have been written on the concept, both pro and con, to some of the key legislators. There is no consensus among the bar sections in support of it at this point. Another bill, Senate Bill 365 on real estate conveyancing, was introduced as a draft that was prepared by real estate closing attorneys. I understand it was not even their final draft, but sort of introduced by mistake. It introduces some provisions there to try to require that a Georgia lawyer actually be responsible for a real estate closing, but it has some issues that get very difficult. I understand there's some redrafting going on. Because of antitrust issues and the Federal Trade Commission, this is an issue that the bar cannot even begin to address by bar rules. If the state does it, they can do it, but we have not taken a position on the bill. Again, as Tom mentioned, we urge you to contact your legislators to urge them to support the amendment on indigent defense. We had an email go out to about 17,000 lawyers this week, and we'll be following up with local bar presidents in the next couple of days. And again, next week we'll be talking about the details of the criminal justice reform proposal that will be introduced in the next few days. Thank you, and we'll talk with you next week.